Because like you can have meetings and like we did have meetings and honestly like it's more of a dread because we knew it'd be a waste of our time so we weren't invested in it. So I don't know, like to somehow, I don't know if there's like a program or something that you can put in place to create relationships, but
I think a part of that is delegating. I think you
can
delegate teams. It can kind of be some sort of thing like
making sure that you
just like a checks and balances kind of thing.
you know, there's a time for work
if,
and then there's a time to take care of
I don't know
yourself and your well-being.
that it's not that discipline calls to all go to one person every
exercise
single time and only go to the
is
same
something
people, or
that
that only this issue goes to these people, but there's like
I think exercising
there's a
everybody's
system in
involved.
place. Yeah,
person.
there's a system of
Like communication
Too
chain.
embarrassed to say that?
so it's like
No,
It's
no,
very important.
I'm just thinking about it, you know, like, I mean, if you have a regular exercise regime, like, I'm not saying I try to, but I mean, I think it's
Okay.
important to not
Well,
let
faith.
work.
so this is like, so what does
Taste of
faith
things
look
that-
like? Like what does belief in humanity as an individual look like? Is it, I don't know. I think
That
it's,
you need personally or
it's a lot about having like,
it's more like conceptual.
physical, but
yeah,
physical, but
I
also
guess, and
emotional.
sometimes it's about like being available and open for people, for students, for things like that. So it's like,
So that's what
Be
you're saying.
accessible.
yeah.
You, so you can take care of other things.
I would also say,
Yeah, I would even put it like as a core value, like in the office or something, like a healthy family lifestyle or something.
also like
so the employees can see
focusing
it.
on like
Actually,
solutions,
some
not just the
workplaces
problems,
have,
which is what I see a lot in the
workout
piece of human rights class
facilities.
I'm in, that sometimes it's all about what's bad, it's bad,
No,
it's
I
bad,
don't
but
know.
if your effort is
Which I think is
how
actually
to
really
Yeah.
help it or how
a
to
good
solve it, then
message
that's
to
how
send,
you keep
like,
Yeah.
the
you
hope
know,
instead of feeling like crap.
Yeah, and like kind of in that just
Yeah.
put 100%
being
effort
like
into your work day, but
always
you know,
like, just smiling,
Steve at
like,
the
just
end of the
active
day or
smiling
whatever.
or just being
I would like to work in a
positive.
place
Yeah,
with
positive
gym.
and
That would encourage me to go.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
That's
And I
The New
think
Balance company has great facilities for
to be
its
like-
workers.
I don't know, I mean, not that, just to be
And in some
inclusive
places
and
even
to offer
have, like,
opportunities to everybody.
I mean, you know, like
And
in school, there's the
it's
concept
kind
of
of like
recess.
overarching
which
sort of
It's
Yeah.
highly debated, but
equal
I mean,
treatment of
Not
people.
I think it's necessary.
And I really like the part where you said like the
And
moral
I think
compass
adults
is
need
selfish.
recess sometimes.
Moral compass for the
I
collective
know like
good.
some
Like,
some
I think sometimes
offices
that
have
requires a
also,
little bit of like
well, they're very
self-reflection,
progressive,
like
but
to kind of
have,
know where you stand, so
true
you're not doing
aim,
things
like,
differently
being-
yeah,
based on
so like
something.
having these core
not like
values and
games, like like foosball
activities.
and like ping pong. I mean, it's progressive,
It
but
sounds good.
it sounds good to
and
me.
like continually reflect.
No, I think that you have to take care of yourselves.
Mm.
You know, if you're just like serious.
Mm.
You know, like around here, I find that professors are
Any ideas, Joe?
constantly
Any
on the
other?
I think we have already some of
They almost
Yeah.
never move.
Yeah.
Little table over there.
included into yeah,
They just
into
sit
the
there.
interfaith
I'm not
for
used to it.
If,
You can't.
for
I
collaborative
always
relationships,
wonder,
does that count
in
between
people's
teachers and
offices.
students as well?
They're always like.
I would say so.
Yeah.
You have-
Well, it's kind of,
how do we implement that?
At my work,
I would say that's also an
I worked
accessibility
for
thing.
an environmental
Oh, yeah.
If you can't be
consulting
collaborative,
firm, when I was in undergrad, and they were all into the environment. And so we had a walking club, and we pretty much
I think
even, I mean, it
this
wasn't forced, but like
faith
if you
is very
were,
important
if you don't
for,
walk, like,
well, if you talk
you were
in
kind of like,
school context, then
you
it
know,
is
so
very
it was really cool,
important.
like.
Well, that's the kind of stuff you're
Leaders.
talking about here, like how do you
balance,
Faith
yeah, how do you
what does it look like?
Faith
promote
of
that in the workplace,
students.
and walking club,
I mean,
Totally.
half an hour, 30
seeing
minutes.
them from a half full
Yeah.
perspective.
What's your conclusion?
Because if not, then you will judge all students. What if you do some delinquencies or, you know,
What did we decide on?
misconduct, then well, you are bad.
Oh, yeah.
Because of having half-empty perspective on seeing people, or particularly students.
Mm-hmm. What does that look like?
But I think it has been ingrained in all of
You
these.
can have a like
Yeah.
culture night every weekend. People from different cultures can present something.
I'm sorry.
No,
I
we
think
talked
this
about,
is just for
Educate, right?
We talked about,
It's okay.
this
Talk about educate,
Japanese.
not
No problem.
we educate, not dictate.
That's also we discussed.
That
I
came
find
together
it
with
funny
this
that we
match.
can lead their conversation. I find it funny that we can lead.
Yeah.
We talked about, well, we talked about a couple things, but student-centered learning,
Environments.
Just so professional. Maybe that's what makes
like
him
we
a
were talking
doctor.
about earlier.
I
Accessible
mean, really,
leaders,
really, Philip.
you know, not having the
Got the
But-
header.
Look at
stage
you.
logo. Yeah.
Um,
That's, compared to this guy?
no,
What is this?
Compared to mine.
model.
Yours is clear. And yours is like
Yeah,
local,
so I think
local context.
instead of
Just
just
throw out
saying
buzzwords
but more
all the
like
time now.
Because
basic,
I always have the imagination of going back Indonesia and work for
Yeah, I know.
either
That's-
government
Yeah.
or private
Like
institution.
empowering.
I
Yeah.
don't have any plan yet. Stay
Speakers on three.
here.
Just use all the buzzwords really.
Are you ready?
We're ready, yes.
Good, okay. Let's look at each other. So, first of all, let's start with the,
Turn on the lights.
you want what?
Turn on the lights to the
Lights, great.
make the street.
Good job. So let's start with the identification of a personal core value that you embrace, and then what does that look like in practice? So, personal, which one?
I think I talk about a balanced lifestyle,
A balanced lifestyle,
a healthy lifestyle.
healthy balanced lifestyle.
So,
That's a good personal core value.
yeah, and just how does it look like? You know, maybe just noticing how we live our daily life. Maybe not to focus on one thing too much and neglecting others that are not less important, such as exercising or just having relationship or with others, and also rest. Yeah, and maybe taking care of ourselves to yeah.
So where does work fit in?
Work?
Yeah, work.
What do you mean?
Well, you're talking about a balanced lifestyle.
Oh,
Part
well.
of that should be work.
Yeah, I mean, we still like do our work, but not probably just like work only and forgetting about other things.
So you don't believe in workaholics. That's not good.
That's not good.
You know what that is?
Yeah.
We do have a tendency today to create workaholics. Everybody's very competitive, you want to do a great job. You want to show everybody how hard you're working, right? And so what that translates into is much less of what you're talking about in terms of balance. So in an environment where the emphasis is on making this organization or business or school the best you can get it, how do you compromise? Won't people look at you and say, everybody at a charter school, for example, where there's an emphasis on working like crazy, and people are staying till 7:30 at night, and you want to go home because you have a relationship, family, interests, health things, you want to work out, whatever, and you're leaving at 5:30, and people look at you and say, "Are you kidding me? Where are you going?" How do you deal with that? Jenny?
I think as always, it's a matter of communication and setting things, if it is a core value, communicating that and kind of leading by example and saying, and, recognizing that people have different commitments. I mean, younger people may not have kids to go home to, and maybe, they have the ability to stay later, but I think, one of your values was recognizing, the complexities of people and their situations. And I think that's important in this context where, you know, people have different lives outside of work, and I think it's really important to acknowledge that. And you know, I think just communicating and getting to know people on a more personal.
So here's a role play. I'm the boss, and you're the person who is leaving at 5:30. I'll say, Jen, can I talk to you for a second? You know, when I'm noticing that a lot of people around here stay till 7:30 at night, sometimes later, and they get here really early in the morning. You kind of leave at 5:30. Can you talk about that a little bit?
I would say to that, if you were asking me that, I would say, you know, I give 110% during my hours at work, but you know, and that's why I put that much effort into those hours. But then I personally think that you lose productivity when you're sitting at the computer for you know, maybe 7 hours at a time. So I would say that, you know, if I went home at 5:30 and got rest, then I'd be like rejuvenated for the next morning and ready to work again.
So why can't you just say, you know, I've developed my own personal core values, and one of them is to have a balanced life.
Yeah,
And
I could
I
say
don't
that.
I mean, you know, you could.
Yeah.
I'm serious when
Yeah.
you know, just I believe in defining yourself.
Yeah.
It's very important to me. So the boss comes over and said, hey, you slacking off, Jen? What? You say, you know, and then you go back and say, you know what? I've spent a lot of time thinking about the kind of life I want to live. I'm deeply committed to this place, but I have one of my core values to live a balanced life, and that's what I'm doing. And as you said, you know, I work 120% when I'm here, and I'm here many hours a day. I'm here at 7:30, I leave at 5:30, whatever. That's 9 hours. That's a good work day, and I work hard during those hours. And I work on weekends as well, by the way. But I just want to tell you that that's who I am. And then I always feel that people who define themselves strongly against an expectation that may be unreasonable, I think they're in good shape. And I think what you said about, you know, sitting in front of a computer for hours and hours and hours, I don't think that makes you extremely productive. You know, I think the most productive people are people who do have balance in their lives.
In Spain, they take a siesta in the middle of the day, and it's proven that it makes them more productive because they take that break in the middle of the day. Just to throw that out there.
I'd like to see that, but
Just the what?
In Spain, they take a break in the middle of the day from work, like for lunch. It's a very long lunch.
Okay, like 2 hours?
like 2 hours.
Yeah, and they come back at like 4 and work till 7,
Okay.
and I don't know if it's
And some would say, well, maybe that's why there's 25% unemployment in Spain. I know, that's being sarcastic.
Yeah, but no, I'm just saying that I think again, that goes back to balance.
Yeah.
But
So what do you think, Chloe, Rosalind, about
About
what does it look like to have a balanced life?
Yeah, I think to, you know, respect your family, like make sure you have enough time to have time with your family. So, and also like, you know, after you finish your work, don't carry the burdens that you have from the work. You know, make sure maybe you can expose your stress, you know, somewhere, maybe karaoke or something in the, you know, in the, so that's what we talk about, like, you know, to have some like you know, we said having some facility that you can do like a pool or bowling or something like that. And then-
Bowling?
yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
Rosalind, what do you got?
for me, as what we've been talking about, like just having like have my own time of like my me time, and you know, also don't forget about like family.
Mhm.
As like for me, like I'm like far away, and so it's kind of easy to like lose touch and like, oh, like they're up there, like they're good, and then just I think for me it's more of like exercising too, just because of like college and it's, I don't know, it feels so easy to feel healthy of not exercising and like forgetting about the impact, like, you know, not doing that we don't feel it right now, so.
Good. Thank you, guys. Organizational core value. What do you like?
Pick yours, the collaborative
Yeah.
relationships.
Pick mine.
Well, because he mentioned collaboration, and I appreciate, like a lot of people said like relationships and respect for diversity, so we felt that yours combined both ideas.
Okay, what does that look like at the work site?
Well, we will have a structural weekly meeting. Like for instance, we conduct meeting every Wednesday or every Friday is according to our plan. And then, before that, the leader of the organization, she or he has to have the sense of delegation. So even though she or he conducts meeting every Friday or Wednesday, but then if she or he just tells them to do things, then there is no point. So she or he has to be delegated in terms of the task and duties of a leader. They will incorporate any other team members to
Okay. So you
achieve the same goals.
So it's important for everybody to be involved.
Yeah, exactly. And so in line with that, keeping everyone involved and like having some sort of communication chain that everyone's a part of.
So if you have like 300 workers or 300 teachers in a school, how do you get people to feel like it's a collaborative place? What does that look like? You said communication is one thing, so make sure people know what's going on. I think that's really important. But knowing what's going on and feeling part of the decision making or part of the culture defining or whatever that's about. How do you do that? If you're a leader.
I think it's a combination of delegation and then that flow of communication or communication chain.
There's an accessibility element to it, to make sure that whatever communication you either offer or ask of your workers, that you keep those, to whomever, from whomever, you keep it open, and that it's not, so that you're not saying, okay, I want all your thoughts, but I'm only going to touch base with a portion of people, or something like that.
So we talked about the Chinese, the stereotypical Chinese principal, who sits in his office or her office all the time. Obviously, there's not a lot of accessibility there, right? And the relationship that I described is that it's very hierarchical. So how do you, if you're interested in collaborative relationships, what do you do to demonstrate that you believe in what your core value is? I believe in collaborative relationships. It's really important to me. Well, okay, what does that look like?
I think like just simple things like leaving your door open certain hours of the day, and people can just like say hi.
Okay.
There are times that you're gonna have to like shut the door, and that would mean like, don't bother me, but.
So what if your door is open, I come in and say hi? Hi, May.
I'll talk to you. That's open door, like, this is time I can talk to you.
Do you want to invite me in, or am I just standing in the door?
No, I'll invite you in.
You
Hi.
invite me in.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can make the atmosphere.
Now, this is serious. I come in and say hello, and May says, come on in, sit down. That's big. What's another thing to make me feel good, like
What's
I'm
up?
a part of the place? What?
What's up?
What's up?
What's up?
Oh man, I got a group of kids I'm really struggling with. I'm not being a really good teacher with that group.
What do you mean? Tell me more.
Well, they're not loving the curriculum, they're not loving me, they don't really work hard, and they're talking all the time, and I'm just really having a hard time with these kids. Some of them are rude, and I like the way they treat each other. I'm just trying to figure the whole thing out. You ask me, I'm telling you. It's hard.
It's a tough time of the year.
I think that,
What did you say?
It's a tough time of the year.
but I think that is
She's
really,
laughing. Well, what's up? I'm suffering. It's a tough time of the year.
You're not alone. Everybody's in the same boat.
You have to say that. I mean, you have to say, well, you're not the only one, right?
Yeah.
But you can't say it's a tough time of the year,
It is.
because it's really tough for me.
it's like, it's okay. I think it is
Thanks for
really
inviting me in.
to,
Now let's
Yes.
listen to Joanne.
I think it is related to our personal core values. It is faith.
Faith.
Yeah, even though you have tough times, but then you still have faith to deal with so many stuff.
That helps.
Yeah.
That helps.
And
Right?
then
Yeah.
this health,
Whatever kind of faith you have. I mean, who cares what it is?
and then this healthful perspective on seeing things and problems.
Mhm.
That will help you a lot.
I do think that one of the most important things that leaders can do to build collaborative relationships is to ask people questions about stuff that you really have questions about. You know, I wander around and say, can I ask you a question? Elizabeth, can I ask you a question? We have this period of the day when kids are sort of free to choose to do what they want. A lot of kids are choosing nothing, just hanging around. Any ideas about that? Any thoughts? Because I'm not know what to do.
And probably look at what options they have as it stands. And is it,
Well, you know, they're supposed to go get help from the teachers. They're supposed to go to club meetings, maybe work out in the gym. But I'm just hang out. Is that okay?
as long as it's not disruptive, I suppose,
Yeah.
and if there's concern about their productivity, if the kids that are the ones that are hanging out are the ones with the really low grades or the
Yeah.
behavioral problems,
That's a good point.
then perhaps, you know, maybe have, if it's a period every day where students have the free time to do that, then maybe once a week require a student to go visit with someone particularly, and it counts toward a grade, or it's an accountability thing, and there's like a paper or something, I don't know, something
So you
like
think
that.
maybe make it more structured? for the kids?
More structured, yeah,
Okay,
and
thanks.
not to over-structure it,
Yeah.
because it's important to give them that choice, but
Okay, thank you. That helps. So how do you feel?
how I feel,
Yeah. I consulted with you.
I was happy to, I think it might not have been something that I would have been aware of
Mhm.
had you not come to me, and I think it's an important issue. I think it's good that you notice those things.
See, if you do that kind of behavior, like, Rosalind, what do you think about this? Or Jen, help me with this. Cody, I need your advice. If you do that a lot, if that becomes part of your collaborative essence, it will not take long before the word on the street, around the school, or around the organization is that Jen she's incredible. She's like always out there, and she's always asking for our advice. And I feel like I'm contributing to the answers, and I'm contributing to the school, or I'm contributing to the organization. It's real. Does she do that to you? Yeah, she does it to me. Does she do it to you? Yeah, she does it to me. Wow, that's really great. She's always consulting with us. That's a big deal. I mean, that's the way organizations work. You know, it's the opposite of that is decisions come down, right? Not collaboratively, but positionally. And people say, what's the typical attitude of a worker or a teacher in an organization where the leader says, this is the way we're going to do it? What's your attitude?
Rebellious.
What?
Rebellious.
I'd say,
Or just
resistant,
Yeah. Might be rebellious.
What a stupid idea that is. That's a natural tendency of workers. I mean, I was once a teacher, and I was a teacher for many years, and whenever the principal got up and spoke, and principal gets up there and speaks and says, "This is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to do it, and I need you to do this." And the teachers would always sit there and go, "What an idiot." He's been out of the classroom for too long. And mean, that's just, that, you know, uneasy is the crown, uneasy is the head that wears a crown. It's one of those quotations I got. Because that's what people do, they judge you and they criticize you. So to do collaboration, you have to practice it all the time. Because if you don't, as soon as you make a decision that's, you know, sort of your own, people say, I thought he was a collaborative person. You're not, see? He's doing his thing. And people don't like that. You know, they don't like it if you're collaborative either. I mean, that, you know, leaders are not generally popular. Generally, right? You know, for the most part. You got that heroic guy out there in Indonesia, right? The Chinese guy.
Yeah.
So, what's his name?
Ahok.
Ahok. Okay, so the point of the core values is to drive the agenda, and I always, as a leader, use the core values to say, no, we won't do that. Yes, we will do that. And if we're about high achievement for every kid, and we have a group of kids who are not achieving it at high levels, we have to devote money to them. That's what, I mean, usually, somehow. You have to do things for people who are not achieving your dream, your core value, and so you have to do something about it. If you don't do something about it, then forget about your core value. It's just a bunch of words. And words don't matter unless you act on those words in organizations. Rosalind.
As a leader, like in an organization, do you discuss the core values or you determine the core values?
Say that one more time.
Like as leaders in organization,
Yes.
do you determine the core values or you discuss the core values?
Well, the best thing, as far as I'm concerned, I once spent a couple of years using the book Good to Great as our guide. You ever hear that book, Good to Great? No? It's a book by a guy named Jim Collins. He's got 2 books, actually, maybe more. Anyway, he talks about how do you get an organization to be great and not just good. And he says things like, you know, thinking you're good gets in the way of becoming great. So it's not good to think you're that good, because then you don't want to get much better. Anyway, we use that book. There's a small version of it called Good to Great in the Public Sectors that apply to schools and churches and like the boys clubs and, I mean, you know, organizations that aren't businesses. And so I use the principles in there to lead. I didn't do it personally, but I had people in groups of 10, really over a couple of years, trying to figure out what we really wanted for our kids. And we came out at the end of the process with what we call parameters of greatness. And the first one, I'm just giving you an example of how to do this. The first one was students will own their learning. Now that's a simple little idea. Students will own their learning. In other words, teaching is so much about the teacher delivering. And it's far too little about the students being passionate and being interested in owning their learning. So that was like the first thing, own the learning. Then the second one was, for students, we want them to develop strong interests and passions. And it doesn't have to be in English. You know, maybe it can be in chess, maybe it can be in soccer, maybe it can be in the history of baseball. You know, just, it doesn't matter what the passions are. Who's gonna, you know, each one of us here probably has interests and passions, right? So, when you have, it sort of, one says own your learning, 2, if you have a passion, you do own your learning. Because if you have a passion, you pursue it and you practice it. You know, if you love playing soccer, you know, I know people who are 60 years old and play soccer. It's been a lifelong passion. They can still do it. So, you know, that came out of the constant conversations that we had. We wanted students to have relationships with people from different cultures. That was a parameter of greatness. We would be great if kids in the school really were comfortable, you know, black kids, white kids, Asian kids, Hispanic kids, foreign kids from foreign countries all over, you know, if we could see that, that would be a measure of our greatness. And then, you know, so those are some of the things that we agreed to, and everybody liked them, because everybody contributed to it. It was a complicated process. But then you have to say, okay, how do you get kids to develop passions in a middle school or in a high school? How do you do it? And maybe, Elizabeth, you create free blocks where kids can pursue their passions and have to figure out what their passions are, and then, you know, get them together with people who know something about their, you know. So, again, those kind of collaborative processes can result in the whole community really owning the school, saying, yeah, we love the fact that we believe that kids have to own their learning. Because in most schools, you know, in so many schools, you prepare a kid for a test, including in China. You prepare the kids for tests all over the place. Is that about students owning their learning? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And I don't think it does, personally, I don't think when you have a test prep mentality in a school, that you're producing educated people. I don't think you are. I think getting kids to be interested in stuff and passionate about stuff and really caring about their learning, then that works. Then you get kids who will grow up and create things. So that's a long, long answer to your question. But you, as a leader, you have to think hard about how these things happen. It's really, you do. You can't just like assume that the school's going to be good or the organization's going to be good. You know, I bought an upgraded iPhone yesterday in the Apple store down on Broadway. And I walked in there and I said, wow, Steve Jobs, he built something that is so extraordinary. I just felt that, you know? I said, because all those people in blue shirts, they feel good about being there. They really do. You know, one of the guys was taking care of me, 27 years old, been there for 5 years, working for Apple for 5 years. He said they take good care of him, he's got good pay, he's got good benefits. Steve Jobs built this thing. It's like the largest company in the world, right? Right? I think Apple's the largest company in the
It's
world.
no.
One of.
It's Coca-Cola.
One of them.
One.
Okay. But to me, what he's got these crazy products, you know, like this thing.
Show it out.
Yeah. So this filter is nice and light.
It's a brand new.
This is brand new.
Okay.
This thing has more power by far, to the nth degree than the computers that got us to the moon and back. This creature.
Ooh, matching phone.
Oh my God. Columbia. The blue. You get the same, is that a 5S or 5C?
Maybe you can make a competition so that we can, you know, have that as a prize.
But, you know, so.
The greatest speech by the end of the semester will get a new iPhone.
But what I'm saying is that somehow the culture of that company, you know, starting with Jobs, he was wearing a black turtleneck and jeans, right? It was like a whole culture that he created. It was very decentralized, and people worked in skunk groups, and they developed products which are just incredible. So he knew that. He knew about the core value of owning something, collective ownership, collaborative ownership, and collaborative. I mean, who's smart enough to develop these things? I think you need a lot of people who work together on that, don't you think?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a mind blower. What's inside of this thing?
Collaborative relationship.
What makes it do? This is like, you know, I mean, we once had encyclopedias. You don't need encyclopedias. You just go Google. You get all the information in the freaking world.
Too much.
It's crazy. And then, of course, it's connected to some, you know, the whatever.
Wi-Fi.
How does it do it? I don't know. Wi-Fi. Where are you, Wi-Fi?
Particles floating all over the place.
But I wanted to buy a 5S. And they said they don't have any 5Ss. I said, why don't you have any 5Ss? It just came out. They said, we get 1,200 of them every day. And they're sold out by 7 in the morning. You know that?
The stat store gets 1,200 every day.
Yes, they get 1,200
That's
every
crazy.
day.
Isn't that the store on 67?
Oh, that's the big store?
Well, there's two. One is on the east side of Fifth Avenue. One of them's on the west side,
On
on
Broadway.
Broadway and 68.
That's their flagship store?
The flagship is over on Fifth Avenue.
Oh.
That's the big.
That is a crazy place. I was in there too and I left.
Yeah, so you
It's
were
just too nuts.
The 60.
It's a huge line days before the opening
Yeah.
of the store.
Oh yeah, people like stayed on the streets.
I don't
It's crazy.
get
But that's what they have a product. And they get 1,200 a day and they sell them out. You know, $300, $400 each. And that's it. And someone's thinking about this stuff. I mean, everybody wants one, right?
What's the point? Because several years or months after something from now, there will be iPhone 6 and iPhone 7. What's the point?
That's the craziness. Every year they come out with something new.
Yeah.
People are
And
equally
then this-
And I
excited.
just did it. I said, because I had another one and now I got this one.
This competition.
I want it better. I don't know
between
I don't even know why it's better. Why is it better?
Samsung.
It's just faster.
It's faster.
It is.
It's crazy. Anyway, the point being that is a very collaborative outfit, Apple. And somehow they got to the point where they have probably hundreds of thousands of workers. I mean, think about it. All the salespeople, the Genius Bar people, and then the producers of this thing, some of them in the United States, some of them in China. It's hundreds of thousands of people, and they own this company. And it works. So think about that when you're being a leader. I mean, you do not want to sit in a room and give orders. I'm sorry. You want to, like Antoine de Saint-Exupéry said in my quotations at the beginning of the book, teach them to yearn for the vast and open sea, and they'll build a good boat. Think about the vast and open seas and rising and falling of the oceans, and they'll go out and build a great boat. Just get them to think about that. I don't know what he told them about this thing. Go make that into the Encyclopedia Britannica, so people don't have to buy those stupid books and cut down trees. Okay? Collaborative. Okay. So we got to number 1. But we have 19 minutes left. So we got plenty of time. 25, 25, 25, 15, 10. Okay. See, someday we have to listen to your speeches. I'm just trying to think what to do between now and 19 minutes. Or 22 minutes, or whatever. Let's talk quickly about we'll do 2 things.
We could chit-chat.
Now, let's talk about what you want to communicate. Since we're on this organizational spirit, then, what do you want to write to your community, whatever that community is, about? We'll say now this is about children. This is about kids. Between Thanksgiving and Christmas, this is the point, where many, many families are not the way that the kids want them to be. Lots of divorce, lots of mess in families. In this country, I think 60% of kids are in families that are not two-parent families. 60%, maybe even more. So the holiday season, starting with Thanksgiving, is very tense for many of them. Because, if you have a broken family, I use that term because it is broken. What do you do on Thanksgiving? If your kids, do you go to the mom? Do you go to the dad? Who comes to the mom? Who comes to the dad? The rest of the extended family? Because, Thanksgiving is usually an important holiday and everybody comes together and eats and talks and whatever they do, watch football games, whatever people do on Thanksgiving. So that begins the holiday season. If it starts out being awkward and even painful, then you got 3-4 weeks left, this year 3 weeks, until Christmas. We're talking American culture right now. And Christmas is the time, you got the tree and you got the presents and Santa Claus is coming down the chimney and, kids just, they love it. It's a very special time for kids. And if that's not happening in a way that the kids want it to happen, it's painful. And kids are sad and they're angry. How come this happened to me, even though it happens to so many people, but it never makes you feel good that other people are in the same condition as you because you're in a sad condition. Just because there's plenty of other people in sad conditions, that doesn't matter to you because you're sad. You don't get happy by thinking that other people are sad. Got it? So if you're in a school knowing that is going on, what do you want to communicate to the people who care for the kids? I guess that's what I'm asking. When you write to the teachers in a school about this period of time, I ask you to write bullets of what kind of things you want to say. So let's share a couple of those. What do you want to tell the teachers? Not tell them. What do you want to share with them?
I would remind them about the conditions.
Okay. Like how?
To be sensitive, but I also don't want to go into too much detail.
So what would you say?
I don't want it to be a downer. I didn't think of the actual words, but I'd just say that, it's a time that we're all looking forward to, and because I also want to keep in mind that the teachers themselves have families to go back to, and that they're looking forward to that time. And
Absolutely.
this might also apply to them, so I don't want
Absolutely.
it to.
That's very important. Very.
Yeah, so just reminding them that the home, like what you said, the home conditions may not be ideal for many of our students, and this might be a difficult, the weeks before and after might be a difficult time, and that we be sensitive to that and just prepare ourselves for that difficult time. I don't know what specifically I would say yet.
Okay, good. Elizabeth?
I thought about, as far as addressing student behavior that may, shift in this time period, whether it's distraction or it's tension or it's stress or overwhelm or just general acting out, to maintain the same guidelines you have as far as behavior goes, but to address them with an awareness of the potential for
That's very important.
underlying.
Everybody hear what she just said? Say it one more time, it's important. Very.
That as far as behavior guidelines go, that you address behavior as you address it with the same guidelines, don't change your rules necessarily, but address it with an awareness and a consideration for the potential circumstances that are taking place at home. So,
Yeah, you don't want to sort of say, oh, these poor children, then everything breaks wild. There's a tendency for them to be wild anyway, so maybe you have to be a little more tough with the rules because they're pushing them during that season. Okay. Ideas to communicate?
Maybe remind teachers to talk about how the true meaning of Thanksgiving, just it's not merely about celebration, but more of giving thanks of being able to together with people that we love,
Okay.
and that doesn't necessarily mean family, but it could be any people, anybody.
You're going in a very important direction, Rosalind. You're talking about capturing what is good and focusing on the positive and not dwelling on what's not good, but say, the kids, let's emphasize to the kids that they do have people and they do have people who love them and care about them. And let's focus on that. That's important. Good.
say the same for your faculty too.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure your faculty know that they have people who love and care about them.
Yep. Yeah. And it's, again, in this particular case, words really matter. And And just as the leader who leads a collaborative process where everybody kind of owns the place and the ideas, and just like the leader who checks in with people and says, what do you think of, what do you think, Jim, what do you think, Leslie? There's another opportunity for leaders to get credible, to gain credibility, to gain the support of the community by capturing the culture, capturing the feelings that are out there, and capturing the humanity, and encouraging the humanity that it represents our best selves. And people appreciate that. I call this the clerical role of leadership, where you really have to be like a member of the clergy in moments like that. I mean, unfortunately, there's plenty of times when the leader of a school, the leader of an organization, has to attend a funeral of a colleague or parent. If it's a colleague, they have to speak. And so it struck me at a point in my life when I did a bunch of these kind of things. I said, I need ministerial training. I need rabbinical training to do this job because that's what it demands. I have no choice. In this particular moment where I'm talking about writing something that's clerical, you have to understand how important that is to people. Again, I'm speaking from my own experience, and I know, having done it every year at this time, how people appreciated that. I mean, people just come over and say, that was so important, Bob. That was so good, it was so well written. You really captured what this place is all about and what we really have to be for the kids and for each other. And so it was an opportunity to be empathic, I guess. I guess it goes back to that all the time. You want to capture the spirit and the soul and the feelings of people in your community. Okay, so I'm preaching to you about that.
It's good.
Okay, so now it's 10 minutes. So let's, I'm not going to hand out the case study. I'll wait till next week when Philip is back so that we all have this experience. But on page 2, the case study analysis. So what I'm going to do next week is I'm going to give you a case study of something that happened. Every time I have a case study, something that happened in a school or having to do with the school and the children. And what you have here, A, B, C, D, E, F, are 6 steps that I'm going to ask you to use when you're doing the case study. I don't know if you've ever done this stuff before, but this is kind of taken out of the Harvard Business School model, and Columbia Business School model. This is like a business model of how do you do case study analysis. And so I'm going to present you with a story. And here is A, description of problem and the goal. And you're the leader, you're leaders. And so you need to talk to each other and come up with a brief and clear description of the problem and the goal. The problem is obviously, what's the problem? The goal is what are we going to do about it? Including the context, some evidence, and some assumptions about what is going on with this particular case. So first, you can't get anywhere unless you define the problem. Then you have to think about, okay, what else do I need before I can even think about a solution or a goal? So what data do I need to understand the obstacles, the opportunities? We call it internal and external environmental scanning. That's a fancy business term. Sort of check out what's going on in the organization with people. Scanning means looking for evidence, looking for data. So before you say, okay, we have a big problem. Think of a crazy problem. We have an ongoing, sort of an ongoing epidemic of drug addiction in our community, in our business, in our school. Okay, so that's a huge issue, drug addiction. Okay, so the goal is obviously not to have drug addiction. The problem is there's too much of drug addiction, And then what's the additional data? What's going on in this organization that might be causing this? So it's that kind of thinking. Scanning across the organization. So what is it our problem? Is it the workers that we hire from a particular community? What is it? What's the context? So you have to think about that. Then you have to think about the stakeholders. It's called stakeholder analysis. Who are the stakeholders? What's their stake? And what's your consequence of the decision that you're making? And there's a cost-benefit analysis. This is all business terms. And how should they be involved in the decision-making process? So who are the stakeholders? If you've got drug addiction, an epidemic of drug addiction in the business, who cares about this? Who are the stakeholders? Who cares? Think about it. Who would care about that? If you had a big problem like that. Hello?
Oh, yes.
Who would care about it? The fact that we got a big problem with drugs in the organization.
The police?
Who?
Police?
The police would care about it. Who inside?
Leader.
Who?
Leader.
The leader.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who else?
Employees.
Yeah. Everybody. Everybody's a
Trick
stakeholder.
question.
Everybody cares about this. I mean, do the customers care?
Yeah.
You don't know what the product is,
It
but
depends, yeah.
oh man, I'm not going to buy anything from that company. They're all druggies. You can't trust what they're making. What if it's a pharmaceutical company? They're making, pharmaceuticals.
Medical
Medicine.
marijuana.
They're making medicine, but they're all wasted. That's not good. I mean, so who are the stakeholders in this particular case? And then this is an important step, the options considered. Okay, what are the plans of action? Let's think about what we can do. How do we do this? Do we arrest everybody, throw everybody in jail, get a whole bunch of new employees? What do we do here? What are the potential plans of action? And again, multiple perspectives. Let's think big, and then what are the costs? What are the benefits? What are the costs? What are the benefits? If you arrest everybody who's addicted to drugs in the organization, it goes into the newspaper. The business is just devastated, right? So part of solving this problem is you don't want it to really go public, do you? Unless you feel like you have a problem that's not so uncommon. I mean, we're talking about drug addiction. I just threw that out of my head. But if you have a problem that's common to a lot of organizations or schools or businesses, well, then maybe going public with it is a good idea. Because they're facing it and they're solving this problem. We can all learn from them. So you have to think like that. And then the action plan. You come up with the action plan. What are we going to do? And then, how will we know if we're succeeding? The ultimate goal of this is then to write a memo to some constituency, saying, here's the problem, here's the evidence, here are the options we considered, and this is what we're going to do, and this is why, and this is how we're going to know we're successful. So this is really strategic planning, if you guys know anything about that. That's really what this is. And it's important when you have serious problems. You're going to be faced with at least 2 case studies over the next few weeks where you're going to be faced with pretty serious problems. So you need to think clearly about this, okay? And you need to think with your crisis team. You need to think with your strategic planning team. So that's what's going to happen next week. Questions?
Any assignments for next week?
Yes, we're reading a book called Lessons from Privilege.
The whole book?
This book, where is it?
Over there.
I brought it to show it to you. It's a prop.
The whole book?
No. Yeah, read the book. It's an easy read. No, it's easy. It looks like it might not be that easy. It's 250 pages long. Read the book. Do a reading response on it. There's some very important lessons. It's lessons from privilege. So the reason I'm signing this book is because today the solutions to the problems that some schools face are being delivered from the federal and the state government And they're designed for schools where there are predominant low-income kids in those schools. A lot of the stuff that's being designed today, in terms of the accountability, is being designed for those schools. So here's the opposite. These are schools of privilege. These are the best private schools in the country. And I've always felt like, why don't we look at those? Those places are pretty successful. You know, Phillips Exeter, Choate, Horace Mann, Riverdale Country Day, Dalton. You know, you got all these really fancy schools, and everybody says to me, Bob, those are kids of privilege. You know, those kids, you can tell them to jump, and they'll say, how high do you want me to jump? They're kind of privileged kids. They'll do whatever you want them to do. You can't compare the kids in privileged schools to the kids in Harlem or Brooklyn or the South Bronx or Southside LA or Chicago. And I'm saying, well, wait a minute. Let's think about the solutions that are being proposed for poor kids as opposed to some of the solutions that we have from these schools. Let's think about it. Let's just think about it. Maybe we're not doing the right thing by poor kids. Maybe let's take a look. So that's what this is for. And one of the acknowledgments that Art Powell makes, I knew him. He's a Cambridge guy from Massachusetts. And one of the things he says in that book is that even the best private schools are not that successful. Even the best private schools have lots of problem kids who come from privilege. And he says, if we can't be successful with kids of privilege, with our resources, I mean, are you guys familiar with some of the private school campuses and the facilities that they have? They're like colleges, right? So he says, if we can't be successful, what does that say about schools who deal with really tough kids and they don't have the resources? So one of the things he does is put things in perspective for us. Because, again, we think that it's easy there, but you know what? Working with kids is not easy. Those of us in the world who have children know that. No, I'm not kidding. I mean, you know, there's no guarantees that even the best upbringing results in happy, successful kids. And that's what he says. But then he says, this is what the good schools actually do. And there are some good lessons there. And there are good lessons not just for private schools, but these are lessons from private schools that we can adopt for public schools. So it's a quick read. You can do this. Do a reading response on it. That's the only assignment I have for you next week. And we'll do the case study. We'll talk about that. And we'll of course give the back to school night speech. We will get to
At the end of the year. I'm just kidding.
Maybe we'll have to schedule a special class to do speeches. Because we're missing that class. Okay, you're done. It's 9:01.
Thank you.
It. You're welcome. This is definitely a pattern where you make one or two agenda items in this class. Next week's agenda is going to be very simple. This pattern is getting to one or two agenda items.
Guys, can I ask you one thing? Can I record this class, for my personal documentation, for my personal purpose?
Maybe next
With
week.
Yeah, next week, and then maybe
What were you doing over there? What's that camera?
I record you.
Oh, you got me?
Yeah.
Did you sign a waiver?
I'm fine.
Thank you.
But
Is it for a project?
I want the what do you call it when you make a movie that's successful?
Oh,
I want a
credit?
piece of the action. When it becomes a big hit in Hollywood, since I'm one of the actors, I want to get paid.
Thank you.
Take the cookies. I don't want the cookies. I really don't.
Listening about balanced lifestyle. Not balanced at all.
Nice iPhone. Do you have a case for it? Because it's too slippery, right?
Yeah. Do you mind if I
I have a question that
Yeah,
I'll
I've got
ask,
this a few times.
about.
How much does that cost you?
Just to see what, if you
For-
would, yeah.
In and out?
About the CIS one to.
No, but for the class next Monday.
Oh, yeah,
Because
yeah.
it said I get to
Which one?
talk to him.
Yeah, of course, I mean, we kind of